Okay, a few more announcements. Next week's class, that is this entity here, is meeting at the same time as it always meets in Crystal Cove Auditorium. We will have a guest speaker. The guest speaker will also be receiving an award. In addition to you folks, there will be other people. There will be UCI donors and deans and so on in the audience with you. But it is just the regular class at the regular time. It's just in a different location. At 8:30, when that lecture ends, we will not take a break and have a landscape afterwards. We will go into a little reception so you can mingle with the donors, mingle with the local community, mingle with the deans, mingle with the artists who will be there. It would be appropriate to dress as you would like to have yourself represented as members of the student body to the community that supports this university. There's a great opportunity for you to be heard that just opened up this week. So if you want to be part of a global dialogue on sustainability, there's another great opportunity. Go to this website, add your thoughts to the growing set of thoughts that are being articulated from around the world. 2 extra credit opportunities, one on May 3rd on ocean acidification, the other on May 9th that you just heard about here, Engage UCI. The instructions are in the email. You attend, write a very short, sort of one-paragraph sort of piece on what you thought of the event, and you send it to Santina. Other announcements. Santina, Allison? Yes, we have more announcements.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? No, sorry. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Sorry. Okay. First thing, quick and simple, message board. If you have not submitted a message board post either of the past 2 weeks, remember to submit it every other week because your past dates are up. Otherwise, the message board posts are looking great. I love your discussions. It's awesome. I'm trying to comment on all of yours at least once or twice in the quarter, but I'm trying to provide substantive feedback as well. Be in contact with me if you have any questions. Secondly, the final projects. If you are not set up and if you don't know what you're doing for your final project, come talk to me or Santina. We've had a lot of questions about the final group projects, and we want to reiterate, first of all, this is a great opportunity. We want for you to be involved in your campus community and in your local community. So you're working with a mentor whose needs you are trying to meet for this. So that person will be interacting with you and interacting with me. I will be grading your final projects if you're doing a group project, partly through my communication with the mentor, and part of your grading that is making sure that you're communicating with that person throughout the quarter. To that end, we've had them communicate with you about interim milestone due dates and the different assignments that person will have for you probably through week 4, through week 6, and through week 8, although it's up to the particular mentor how they want you to do it. These will basically be draft sections of your final report. So what you're doing for the interim milestones, keep in mind how that fits with the rubric for the end of your quarter. And these, you will be turning them into your mentor, and your mentor will be communicating those with me. So I'll be grading them. The milestones will be part of your final report, will basically be a draft for your final report. This is a great option for the community for you to engage with. And is there anything else we need to say about the final reports? If you have any questions, please come talk to me. We've had a bunch of comments throughout the last couple of weeks, and I think most people are in good shape, but we want to make sure. Any questions right now? Yes, ma'am. For next week. Thank you for bringing that up. We're going to have sign-in sheets, so please make sure that you find Santina or myself, and we're going to have a class roster. So we will be taking participation points, but it will not be through the iClicker. So don't worry about bringing your iClicker to the Crystal Cove Auditorium. Anything else? All right, thanks.
All right. So, so I talked earlier about the importance of mindfulness. I think mindfulness really means helping you learn how to focus on things and not be distracted by stuff. Because when you focus on things, well, first of all, you tend to be more productive and more successful. And people who are able to practice mindfulness, we know, have better health and greater levels of happiness and are generally more successful in life. And the thing I want you to be mindful about this week is I want you to think about what you're eating and whether you know where it comes from and whether you really want it in your body and whether you know nothing about it at all and whether you need it and why you're eating it and why this choice over another choice. Instead of just gobbling down food without any thought, sort of just grabbing whatever sort of you manage to pack with something that smells attractive for a few seconds. Does smell so attractive later. But early in this process, think about it a little bit. And to get you in the mood and to get ready for this lecture, I want you to just, we're going to practice 5 minutes of mindfulness right now. So just forget about everything, focus only on your own breathing, forget about the rest of the day, all the distractions that you're experiencing. I know they're great, and just relax for 5 minutes. All right, folks. Let's start with the night clicker question. Simple. In general, do you prefer to work alone, choice 1, or in a team, on team, choice 2? Okay. Yeah. Let's see the answers. Alone, huh? Okay, well this class is about working together. and this class is about working together, and in about an hour and a half from now, the entire class is going to work together to create something that will be a permanent creation. It will be displayed permanently. And that's in an hour and a half. So we'll see how good you are at working together. But I want to begin by talking a little bit about the importance of collaboration. There's a sort of science of collaboration which is very in vogue right now. If you look at, if you happen to be one of those people who, and you probably should be one of those people, who reads things like Harvard Business Review or The Economist and those sorts of things, you'll see there's a whole lot of research that has been showcased about what collaboration really means and how to encourage it and why we should be focusing on that. But to get there, let's start talking about problems and the sort of problems that we think about as sustainability problems. We can organize into a variety of categories. So one way of thinking about problems is to think of them as this is an Earth system science type of problem, or this really is a problem of coordination of rules and regulations of government, or this is a problem of that has to do with identity and ethics, culture, or this is more of a design problem. This is a problem which requires ingenuity and innovation, and we tend to organize problems into those categories, and that's fine. It's not the only way we can think about problems. We can think of problems, and another common way of thinking about problems is this a problem that everybody has? So, are you trying to solve a problem that is universal? Everybody's going to experience this problem at some point in their life. Or is it a problem that everybody has, but you're having it for the first time? So even though it's a common problem, and you can learn from someone else, it's new for you, it's new for your organization, it's new for your school, it's new for your team, it's new for whatever it is. But it's not a new problem. Or is it, something that you're one of the first people to experience? This is let's say, a problem related to a new climate regime, and you're experiencing it ahead of the rest of the world. So everybody is going to eventually experience it, but you're experiencing it first. So there aren't going to be guidelines. Or is this a completely sort of a problem that only you have, that only you or your organization, your community, your school, your world, your team is completely unique. It's bizarre. It's a strange problem. No one else is going to probably ever have a problem quite like this one. Some strange set of circumstances have forced you into dealing with something that's highly unusual, maybe completely original. And often, of course, what I'm getting at here is that we have the wrong skills in looking at problems, or we think about problems the wrong way. We think this is actually a common problem, and it's a new problem. And we sort of say, let's look for a model that can solve that problem. Everybody has that problem. And we have to categorize the problem correctly. We often don't spend very much time thinking about problems. Today, people think about problems increasingly in terms of these categories. Are these problems that are sort of technical things, my car won't start. If your problem is your car won't start, we can think of that as a technical problem. There's probably a solution, and it can probably be figured out pretty quickly. And you can probably figure out figure it out yourself. The battery is dead, you have no gasoline, you're using the wrong key, whatever it is. There's probably something straightforward that you can figure out. And if not, you're almost certain that if you call AAA or whatever it's called, they come out, they'll figure it out for you, and your car will get started again. It's highly unlikely that your car won't start, and at the first time it's ever happened. And everybody sitting there saying, this won't start. This is unbelievable. So we have sort of technical problems, but increasingly people talk about what we can use different terms, but adaptive problems. Problems which are problems that are very hard to find a solution to because of the complexity of the world. So we're in a world with lots of uncertainty. So if we say our problem is how to improve public health, or how to improve education, or how to create jobs in our country, or how to prepare ourselves for a climate threat, these are no longer straightforward technical problems. These are really, really complicated problems. That doesn't mean that we can't make progress, but it means that the solution isn't going to be simple. We can't simply say, oh, we've got our healthcare system is becoming too expensive. But here's the solution. We call it so-and-so, you restructure it, and it's manageable once again. These are very complicated problems. And what happens is lots of people sort of come up with different ways of dealing with it. So what's an example of a technical problem? A technical sustainability problem? Anybody have any ideas? What type of sustainability issue would be basically technical that you could solve with that? Pretty straightforward.
Water infrastructure.
Okay. So water infrastructure, what do you mean exactly? Make it more efficient? Less likely to evaporate?
Water infrastructure basically kind of been dissipating since post-World War II. So land equality has been something because of it. So in order to improve this problem, you have to focus on the technical aspect of fixing water infrastructure.
So we pretty much know what to do. And then the question is, can we get the resources that we need to do what we, sort of reform or replace our aging brittle infrastructure. Right. Any other ideas of a fairly technical type of sustainability problem that we could easily solve, sort of straightforward in a sense? Anyway? Yes. Okay. So we could compost rather than put stuff in landfills.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's an interesting issue. Is that a technical problem? It's a complicated technical problem, and I'll tell you why. How easy is it for most stuff to turn into compost? Right? But a lot of the stuff that we use is actually pretty difficult. And so what happens to most of the stuff that we recycle, that we put into our recycling bins, say here in Irvine? What happens to most of it? Does it get recycled, and somebody composted, and somebody turned into new materials and things like that? Does it go into landfills? What's that? It's something you put in the recycling bin. Where does it go? You guys are sustainability people. When you put something into a blue bin, where does it end up? Where? China. That's good. Actually, if it's stuff like plastic, it probably does end up in China because we can't recycle most plastic, even plastic that can be composted can't be composted either because we have no facility to do that either. So that either goes into a landfill. So if you buy those cups at a concert, say organic green cup, it's going to a landfill. Nobody's put it on. So they're put on a ship and taken to China and stuff like that, but that's probably much worse than using plastic water. So you're right, this is a technical problem, but it's a complicated technical problem, but there's a solution. The problem right now with recycling and composting is that people tend to put a whole lot of stuff into a container, so they say compost here, recyclables here, waste here. People contaminate those containers, and there's no sorting mechanism, so they all get turned away. So almost every single truck that carries recyclables ends up going to the landfill. It has to, because the alternative would be for somebody to go through it by hand, taking out, well, this plastic bottle shouldn't have been in here, and what's this stuff? Can't be in here, and so on. So we contaminate those things, and they're absolutely not usable. And if you live under the illusion that recycling means recycled, let's think again. None of that, I would venture to say almost none of it gets recycled. So your streams of e-waste that carry you, very carefully put bottles and metal cans and newspapers, they all end up in the same place. And that's because but it is a technical problem. How do they solve it in places where they actually do recycle? They what? They separate everything, exactly. So if you go to Canada, or you go to Switzerland, or you go to any country that has serious recycling, there is no big container. You put plastic and newspaper and metal all together with bits of sandwich and old French fries and this Kleenex can probably be recycled. No, that just doesn't work. What you do is you go in a real recycling station, in a community where it actually gets done, you put newspaper here, brown paper there, and yellow paper here, and brown glass bottles here, and white glass bottles here, and clear glass bottles there, and green glass bottles there, and this type of plastic here, and so on. You actually separate everything out, and a group of people looks at it and they say to you, you can't put that in this goes over here. So they have a big operation, it's quite labor intensive. And because it's labor intensive, in countries where it's done, the only way it can be done is by citizens. It would be our trash bill would be thousands of dollars a year if we expected them to hire people to do this for us. So we put it all into these things. Why do we do that? Well, it is a technical problem that we could solve. So here's one thing. If you could actually solve that problem, if you could figure out a way to solve that problem, because we know what stuff can be recycled, what stuff can be composted, what stuff can't be. We know that. And we know that if you could get it, but we also know that economically, we cannot hire armies of people to go through trillions of tons of, not trillions, but billions of tons of waste each year in our country because people put whatever they want into those bins. And all you need to do is put one thing and it contaminates the entire load. That's it, one thing. Because the systems, when the trucks drive out, somebody looks and they look and say, contaminated. We actually did a study of this, and our team who went and observed the recycling station found that during the observation period, every truck was turned away. That is every single truck. So we have to, so it's a technical problem, it's a problem that probably isn't easy to solve, but it could be solved. And so that's a great problem. That's a great example of both of these are good examples of things where we know how to do them. We're not doing them, but we're sort of pretending that we're doing them, which is probably the worst of all. Sort of like,
Is that just because of the infrastructure of our waste disposal, our water management, the way that things are set up, that's how we're just you guys think of it as not somebody.
I mean, I think, I don't know if you can tell what you think. From my perspective, I've lived in 4 different countries, and I think it's cultural. In Switzerland, whether you're the CEO of Rolex, or whether you're running a local grocery store, on Saturdays, you walk your stuff over to the recycling, and you spend a half an hour there. It's like a social event. And you see everybody in the community, everybody in the village. They go there, and they sort all their stuff, and you have these volunteers, retired people, who sort of look there and say, hey, that's a brown bottle. It goes over here. If you go up to like the Gulf Islands or the San Juan Islands, so the San Juan Islands in Washington, Gulf Islands in British Columbia, they have to manage the waste on those islands much more efficiently because they're really small and all rich people live there. And so they have these very, very elaborate recycling stations, and the whole community comes there. And at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, you'll see everybody. Everybody comes out and with their bags and bags of stuff. And the kids come out. Could you imagine that in Irvine? Could you imagine everybody getting together to recycle their trash on Saturday mornings? We're way too busy for that. Unemployed people somewhere else. But we're way too busy. So there is no So, but that's a good example of a technical problem that we could solve. And these are the sort of things that you guys could be solving. You guys can figure out ways to deal with water infrastructure or recycling because we know what to do. We just don't bother doing it. Is it a behavioral problem? How many people think that it's majorly sort of cultural? We just don't. We just don't bother. It's enough to expect us to put something in a blue bin versus a green bin. I mean, that's already a distraction. Wow. How many of you would do it if it was required? How many of you will do it now anyways? Well, it's impossible, right? There's no place to do it. So, we can't solve that problem. We have no place to do that. All you can do is put stuff there and watch it go into a landfill. Or to try and, someone, if it's really valuable, will try. So an adaptive, what's an example of a more adaptive sustainability problem? So we've got technical down wells. What's an adaptive sustainability problem? No? You're just thinking?
Buy different food, so maybe just adapt around like buying food in the grocery store, buying it.
So I think when they use the term adaptive, they mean complex and uncertain. So they're thinking that it's sort of, that it's not clear what the best thing is, how to deal with the problem. So what's complex about food? I mean, food I think would be a good starting point for personal transformation towards sustainability. If everyone thought a little bit more carefully, maybe slightly better choices. But what's the problem? Do you know enough about it? Okay, so now you're onto something. So according to a lot of science, our food systems and water systems are so contaminated that there is no real easy solution. In other words, every glass of water you drink is chock full of antibiotics, birth control pills, and little plastic pellets. And there is no escape from that. You have no way of getting those out of the water you're drinking, and there is no water that doesn't contaminate out of your surface. Therefore, when you take a glass of water, you're drinking a brew of antibiotics, birth control pills, and plastic pellets. That we know is empirically true. What we don't know is, does it matter? So maybe at least, but these are not huge quantities. It's not like you're drinking 100 milligrams or something. They're small quantities. But a lot of scientists are saying this constant exposure from breast milk through the entire your entire life cycle may be linked to cognitive disorders, immune system dysfunction, the fact that something like one of the men is now actually sterile and not able to reproduce the species. These sorts of things which people are discovering may be linked to exposure to it, but we don't know. This is a very complicated research to do. And we can't take, in this world, we actually can't take people and raise them on pure water, because we don't have it anymore. On the other hand, before you get too nervous, the amounts may be so small that they may be insignificant and may not really have much effect on it. So we don't know for sure that the fact that scientists can detect these in all water systems, that you should be alone. We don't know that. It doesn't sound right, but it's not like, cholera or E. coli or something. It's just trace amounts of these stuff. But the larger issue is to find pure food and pure water, that's very, very difficult. That's something that's quite difficult. And so people like you have to sort through this and try to figure out how you make, and it's made more complicated because of terms like GMO and organic. Organic, if you buy, does anybody ever buy something like free-range chicken? Now technically, free-range chicken, do you think free-range chicken has ever been out of a cage? Most free-range chicken has never been out of a cage. It has the option at some point in its life to step outside of the cage. So that means at some point somebody has lifted the cage open, the chicken has looked around helplessly, stayed in place, and that was that's free. So there's no obligation. It isn't like it's out there cavorting in the fields and pecking away Mother Nature. it has had an opportunity to step outside, and it probably didn't take it. But then it gets labeled free range. Organics, even in many ways, sort of meaningless term. So are those certification systems, rather meaningless terms. So all this has confusion. Scientists tell us there's all sorts of things contaminate our food supply and our water supply, and attempts to label things and guide us towards organic or pure or non-GMO are extremely difficult because those labels often don't say what you think that they might be saying. So they don't really mean organic in the intuitive way that we like to think of organic. They don't mean GMO-free in the intuitive way that we like to think of. And if you've ever been exposed to anything like corn syrup or soy, then you've had genetically modified. It's impossible not to. So it's hard. So there's a complex problem. We think that what we eat is going to affect our health. We think that there must be certain types of food, certain qualities of food and water, which will optimize our health. But right now we're in a world where we don't know exactly how to do that. Now, we don't want to overstate that problem. For a lot of the world, the problem is just getting enough calories with enough micronutrients to develop normally. And so, for many people, the problem is hunger. But for other people who have choices, we do get into a big world of uncertainty where we see things that we don't know how bad are hormones, how bad are antibiotics, and so on. But here's one indication that they're probably not good, is that around the world, what they call MDR and XDR pathogens are emerging at an alarming pace. And MDR pathogens are multiple drug resistant. MDR pathogens are extremely drug resistant. And people think that that's probably due to the misuse of antibiotics, people not following the regimen, but it could also be the result of large amounts of antibiotics dispersed through the ecosystem. So now the pathogens, which are very agile and adaptive, are finding clever ways to get around antibiotics and survive, but that means that we don't have treatments for them anymore. So if you get XDR tuberculosis, what does XDR tuberculosis mean for an individual? It means they will die. That is the end result of XDR tuberculosis. If you get regular tuberculosis, what will happen to you? You'll be treated and you'll be fine. But the problem is now it's possible to get variant resistant, which cannot be treated. Okay. So we have some technical problems, but often we think technical problems mean easy to solve. They don't. Recycling is not an easy problem to solve. It requires almost a complete rethinking of our responsibility in relationship to waste. And our tendency, which is to say somebody is taking care of it. If I do the minimal amount, put it into a bag and leave it outside, somehow it's magically taken care of. So it disappears from my curb every Friday, and hopefully somehow somebody will be responsible for this, right? That tends to be our way of thinking, and when we drill down, we almost always discover that's not what happens. Okay. Complex problems or adaptive problems are different in the sense that we're not even the solutions are not obvious. I mean, we know we have an issue, but there's a lot of uncertainty.
And it could be that, what people think of as properties are emerging, change is taking place at different levels, systemic levels, and so on, which make it hard for us to plot a solution. Another way of thinking about this,
another common way,
is very popular language is tame problems that are just, okay, my car won't start,
get the jump start, okay, started, I'm on. Fairly linear type of thing.
my battery is dead, I need to get power from somewhere else. Complex problems, more, where there isn't a simple A to B, but you've got a lot of pieces of relationships in play. Or wicked problems. Wicked problems are those ones that you talked about before that are unique, and so on. Okay, so how do we solve problems? How do we solve problems?
Well, there's a huge amount of research that is being done on innovation and creativity. And arguably, that's what we're all about. What humans are all about. We are
creative beings. We are things that we are natural problem solvers, and we're better at it than any other species. And in solving problems, we also create history and we create culture. And we don't know of any other species that creates history or culture. So we do a whole lot of things. We create culture, we create history. We don't think of shrimps as big as sitting around saying, man, 200 years ago life was a lot different. I mean, I suppose shrimps could be saying that, but we pretty much are sure that they're not. They're thinking that it's always been like this because they just don't have history, right? And they don't have any famous shrimp that they can refer to. So we produce culture, we make history, we are creative creatures that solve problems. But how? What matters in solving problems? And some theories focus on the process. How do you think through a problem? And can you be trained to do that? Other people look at something and they say, take this and they say, what is it about this? What is it about this that is an act of sort of innovation? Let's look at this thing. What's special about this? What's differentiated? What is it? This is in case there's anybody not this. So what is it about this? How many people have it? Anybody? Work with you. That's it? So does this come back there? Is there another type of problem people use? So one way to think about the process that the inventor of the iPhone went through, the set of steps. In other words, look at this and ask, what is it about it that makes it unique? What is it? Another common approach is to think about characteristics like in your own life. You must have friends and family members who think of as creative, as innovative, as people who solve problems. And do they have certain characteristics? Are they professorial, for example? So some say, look, people have certain types of personality traits who tend to be those types of people who end up as artists, who end up as architects, who end up as novelists. So. And then people also look at the environment too. Like, could you really imagine an act of creativity in this space? It's like clothes, we're all breathing each other's air, something we're coughing, so we're breathing the cough air over and over again. So we're in this confined, incredibly hot. I find it really, really hot. Unbearably hot. Could be this Arctic jacket I'm wearing. Okay, but you get the idea. And there's lots of interesting work, and I'm not going to go into it, but if you haven't read this, you want to. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the idea that we become creative, we start to become problem solvers only when other things fall in place. And creativity is like the tip of the iceberg, and lots of human beings never reach. They're just scrambling around to meet basic caloric needs or to feel safe. So they can't sit down and design interesting stuff. They don't produce culture. They don't really produce history except in a sort of very, very mundane way because they're struggling for just to get through each day. Freud's approach, of course, Freud's psychoanalytic theory thought that creativity was a sort of way in which we channel things like certain types of frustration and anxiety and fear. And he identified two big ones that we had. One was the fear of death. So he said people, one way we manage with the fear of death is through access to creativity, like God and religion. And we invent these elaborate stories because we're so afraid of dying. And so that's humans are mostly responding to their default attitudes, death. On the other hand, of course, is some sort of sexual dysfunction. We're not getting satisfied the way we expected we want to be, and so either we become psychopathic or neurotic, or we're smart, we channel that frustration into producing great relationships. Freud was very humble on sex and death, obviously, those were his things. Some people have focused on the relationship between what we would classify as forms of mental illness or certain types of extreme personality types and creativity. But the contemporary thinking looks at a couple of things. Kaufman and Beghetto talk about the 4 C's. What are the 4 C's? How many people have read this stuff?
So this is like one of the, so when you're in university, one thing you want to do all over is there's like, you know, really every generation, including your generation, there are half a dozen major thinkers who are like sort of shaking up everything. And everybody knows what you're doing. So you guys also be part of that. And so you ought to be reading some psychologists, you ought to be reading philosophers like Jacques, you ought to be reading these people who are sort of shaking up our way of thinking, complexity scientists, the new Slovenian philosophers, business theorists. But what their basic argument is that there's 4 texts of creativity. There's little texts of learning from creativity, where you know, where we do what other species can't do. We learn something, and it sinks in, and that's an act of creativity. It's part of our. In a way, it's the way we form ourselves. We are creating ourselves. We are creating our own character. So we learn stuff, and maybe you remember a lot of history, and you're really good with languages, and you remember math really well, understand. And so you're creating yourself in those ways, because you're learning things, and those things are becoming you. And you're sitting there saying, wow, you really, really understand math. That's part of his identity. That's his act of creation. Little C creativity is sort of like, the things that are in all of our lives, right? So anybody can sit down and, learn piano to a certain level, or be able to take reasonably decent photos, or learn how to paint, how to sketch, fairly well. So there's sort of so that's a little creativity. That's within everybody's grasp. You may not ever do that, but if you try, if you put some time into it, then you'll be able to play a few songs on the guitar. I mean, it's very unlikely that you could put 1,000 hours into playing the guitar and not be able to play anything. That would be pretty unique to get the Guinness Book of World Records. But it doesn't mean you're going to be Eric Clapton, but it does mean that you'll be able to play the guitar and irritate if you actually play the guitar. Because you won't be that good. You'll just have got to a certain level of proficiency. Professional creativity, is that type of creativity that certain people will display in their careers. And there's always somebody in the business world, in the academic world, in the nonprofit world, who is the problem solver, who figures out, okay, we want to get to Oprah Winfrey. We're all sitting there thinking, if we got on her show, and that person in the company figures out a way to get there. And so everybody sort of accepted it. They sort of said, well, we knew this guy would figure it out. We know because he's always that guy. He's always the guy who sort of figures out, we're sort of stuck on no funding, or we need a new office space, or we want to get on a show. He's always the guy who figures that out. And the rest of us sit there and sort of look to that person for that type of problem solving leadership, because they're not really sure. They're saying, get up. And this guy says, I have a friend who knows somebody that they call, we're going to rally for it in Chicago, go to a studio, whatever. And then there's Big C. And Big C, of course, is like, Mozart, Leonardo, Bach, Is there any Big C creative in this classroom? Little C creative? No? But do you know what Big C creativity is? Big C creativity is those people who produce something that we all like or not. They all say, wow, that is amazing. That's amazing. There's somehow that photograph stands out from all the other photographs that are really nice. Somehow your interpretation of Mozart stands out. It's a whole other form of music. You have done something. Or the poem you wrote. There's that lucky thing that everybody who falls in love at the age of 15 writes, which is you're embarrassed with later on, but it's actually good. Big difference.
And then there's a sort of the component theory. The creativity is you know, that we can sort of pull together a set of things and create the conditions for creativity. So there's all sorts of ways of thinking about it. And let's see, which is your strongest? What be honest, deep down, what do you really think you aspire to? I'm pretty sure you know. What do you think the class is going to? Big C? They're all going to be big C? Really? So what do you think? What? Really C is just a sort of learning that builds, you create your own character. Like you're the smart kid in math, but you struggle with history, it's sort of, you know, you create yourself, your identity. Now, other people see it and recognize it in you. I'd say that most of us can do that. And if that's your strength, that's cool, that's awesome. No judgment in this. So we got a lot of big C thinking. That's pretty good. That's really, I like that. That's bold. I like the bold class. That makes me feel good. You're the right people for what I have in mind later today. We're not going to look at because, frankly, Maslow bores me. How many of you read How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci? How many of you have read that book? How many of you have heard of that book? Read it. Wow. Reading shouldn't be intimidating. But, you know, there's an interesting, this is a book worth reading. And it's a book worth reading because what he basically does is he looks at Leonardo da Vinci, notebooks, sketches, and writings, and he was generally considered one of the most creative people in history. And he looks through and he says, you know, this guy has some very distinctive sort of behaviors. And we can acquire this. We can learn this. We can take whatever creativity we have and we can ramp it up, sort of like body or doing yoga. You know, where you start with yoga is not where you're going to be 4 years later if you continue to do it. You're going to be able to do things that on day one you thought, that's impossible. And 3 or 4 years later, like you're doing this, these things that are no problem. And he makes it seem like that, you know, we all have this creative potential, but most of us aren't nurtured. Most of us are not exercising. Most of us aren't climbing. And so, and there's a great TED talk by Ken Robinson, in which he says most of us are incredibly creative when we're young. And there's lots of sort of behavioral research that supports that. But school grinds it out. And you know, it sort of forces us down this fairly boring 12-year journey. With almost no exposure to problem solving, almost no opportunity for creative expression. Sort of actually punished if you think outside the box. You get a low grade. So if you think of a different way of doing things, you get a low grade. You don't fare well. If you solve a problem a different way, it's not, there's no real tolerance for that. And there's no real opportunity for you to explore. I mean, Leonardo can sit down and just say, I'm going to do Mona Lisa. He sketches, and then thousands and of portraits. And we can see him evolving through these. So Michael Gale looks at all this and he says that here's, you know, one of the things that we lose that very few people have is curiosity. It is saying to yourself, you know, okay, I put stuff into this blue bin. What happens to it? What happens to it after I put it there? Why should I assume that everything's fine? I buy this package and it says organic. What does actually that mean? You know, what does it mean really? You know, it's that curiosity. One thing that Leonardo had was he wanted to know the answers to them. He didn't just look up and say, oh, clouds, oh, noise, oh, organic chicken. He said, you know, he looked at it, he said, what are the diagrams features of those clouds? Can I sketch them? How are those clouds moving? Is there a cloud? You know, what is it? Do they change if it's windy? Do they change if it's a certain time of the day? And then he thought this stuff through. He was endlessly curious. And you can become curious if you've lost that possibility, if you've lost that character trait. And there are things. Mindfulness, of course, is at the top of the list this quarter. I'll change by next. So if you take this course next year, we can do it. Right now, I'm into mindfulness. But there are things that you can do. The first thing, of course, is to not allow yourself to be placed in the face of everything that's not that you're participating in, but to actually ask yourself some questions about the things that you're engaged in, and sort of say, you know, why this? Why do you cost that much? Where does this come from? You know, where does this water come from? Where does the food come from? How does it get there? You know, who's making it? You know, what is it? What does science really say about this? What is it? What is it? How much wine is okay to drink? Actually, ask these questions and look into them and figure them out. Do experiments on yourself. Push yourself to the limit. But other types of things. So you can sort of say, can I be comfortable in a room that's 60 degrees? I was joking when I said the cold. I'm comfortable in every temperature. But we can certainly push our so curiosity and a willingness to challenge things and to test things, demonstration, and especially what Leonardo says, what people talk about today is feeling as a willingness to try it, and if it doesn't work, instead of saying, well, I'm never going to get this slide, say, okay, try it again. Try it again. I'm looking at it, learning, and thinking. And of course, we know those who have that persistence, who sit there and say, why did this work? Why does this, you know, piece of furniture that I made, why is it so ugly? What is it? Why is it ugly? Like, you know, chairs could be beautiful, but I can't build it ugly. Actually, why? What is it about it? Why do you work? Or is there something I can do? What is it that makes it so ugly? The bizarre proportions? The fact that it was incredibly uncomfortable? What is it that makes this chair so ugly? So you know, this is important. And of course, you know, there are things that you can practice. You can sort of look into things. You can get alternative perspectives on things. You can check on things. Refine the senses. What we know is that Leonardo was interested in texture. He was interested in how people look. He was interested in how people sound. He was interested in using his senses fully to absorb information. And what we know is that people, you folks, get almost all your information from your eyes. Almost everything you learn now is from your eyes. You learn almost nothing any other way. And yet your other senses are incredibly powerful. They're just beautiful. We don't, you know, in fact, we walk around, some of us walk around with, you know, earbuds all the time, listening to music, and the whole world is shut out most of the time. But these other things, taste and smell and touch and so on, are remarkably underdeveloped. This is not historically all the case. Some people are much more allergic to their world, to the various sort of sensory forms of information that come from the world. But for some reason, we impose that on, we can open up. You can. You don't have to say, I just have a bad sense of smell. No, you don't have a bad sense of smell. You just don't use it to smell it. You know. So one of the things that Leonardo did was he explored texture. He explored, you know, this is this time versus this time versus this time versus this time. and so on. And this is a skill that everybody can develop. And
And it means that all of a sudden you quintuple the amount of information that you get to process, that you get to play with, that you get to experiment with. He was not uncomfortable. He was not a rigid thinker. He was not somebody who was inflexible, who wanted a simple, straightforward answer to everything. He was prepared to accept that the world had some ambiguity, that there was some elements of uncertainty, that there were paradoxes, that this was part of being human, that some things could not be squared.
And so he accepted that, whether he assumed that nothing could ever be squared, he assumed he accepted something there was going to be ambiguity, and that was okay. And it wasn't frustrating, it didn't mean he was unhappy. And the typical thing that we say is, you know, if only the world was different, if only justice, there is no justice in this system. This system sucks, you know, because it's not perfect, because it doesn't conform perfectly to our expectations. This person's an idiot. I've had enough of this relationship. This is moron. What did I ever see in you? Because, you know, this is the amount of your behavior has to conform to this. As soon as you step aside and show something else, all of a sudden, man, that's more than I can conform. And you know, we discovered that the people who are creative, highly creative, they expect that. They expect development and change and evolution. And yes, I said I love fish, but I was lying to you. My whole life I ate fish. It was the disgusting thing in the world. In fact, I have to eat you.
So what? Good. And I want you about that too. Whole brain thinking.
Leonardo was much about science as he did about aesthetics. He was as interested in circulatory system as he was in a beautiful rendering of a circulatory system. And those things we now know are part of his genius. That he dissected things. He wanted to know how they work. He looked at them. And he also wanted to say, how can we represent them in a way which was pleasing to the eye? It was dramatic and exciting. And so you know, it isn't like we have to be scientists or we have to be artists. We have to be on that side of the campus or this side of the campus. We make our bed and we're engineers and that's all we do. It's, you know, if we want to really be sort of modeling the greater aspirations of humankind, then we want to say, oh, I might devote as much of my time to art as I do to engineering. Because those are two elements of what it is to be human. And I discovered I can bring them together in exciting ways.
There is this dichotomy. Art, studying art.
You're not doing a job. I mean, this is something that from this perspective we have to go. I started my art teacher. And to the whole paper. But the point is, you know,
I forget what the point is. And here, the other thing that he detected in Leonardo is a sort of interest in grace, poise, fitness. He wanted to understand motion. He wanted to understand colors.
what was beautiful, what sort of things. So he was interested in sports and athletes and dance and movement and these sorts of things. Kinetic, we think about kinetic knowledge. We often think that only some people have kinetic knowledge. And then, wow, you dance? But, you know, white guys, it's like, white guys, you can't. But we're culturally informed from birth that we cannot dance. It's not possible. We're always going to move awkwardly and sort of look like adults in any situation. And the last thing I really want to be with people who are ethnically dancers. So we don't want to be in that category because if you're influenced with anybody from South America or Africa or actually anywhere else in the world, you're going to look back. You're going to look back at the system. But of course, you know, if we tried it, and if we didn't shut it out at the age of 3, then maybe at the age of 30 we'd be able to dance. So saying, instead of assuming at the age of 3 we'll never like some awkward white guy.
I should have read this book a long time ago. The point is, get fit. Get fit, use your body, move,
get out there, do things. Sing, dance,
exercise.
These are elements of not just a wasted life, but of genius. And then what I've talked about before, understanding these complex systems of relationships, and looking at how things fit together, and asking what is the relationship between this and this, and how do I fit into it, why does it work, why does it not? I've talked about that as sort of critical to understanding sustainability, relationships, and which ones are trending in directions that are worrisome because they're going to break down and depend on them. We want them to live, we want them to be functional, we want education, we want water, we want all those things in our lives, we need those things in our lives, and we see our systems, these complicated systems, and we know that they're interactive. People talk about the new nexus that matters. Somehow what happens in energy and water affects food and aspects like climate. These things are interconnected. And if it's too big for us, if those ideas are like, oh my God, turn on the TV, I think that's like the absolute worst thing you can ever do is watch TV. And I'm sure some of you here have watched TV. Absolutely. It's like, it's worse than that. I don't know. It's like, it is the worst thing you can do is watch TV. Because at least from this perspective. All right. It's not worse than heroin. I was joking. All right. So there's lots of ways we can cultivate creativity and problem solving, and it's important that we do so because we have technical problems that require real creativity to solve. How do we recycle and repair water infrastructure? And we have complex problems. What should we be eating? And is it okay to drink this water? And what should we be asking to have regularly in our water? And those are complex issues that we need to solve. And the way that we do this is to ask questions and demand answers and explore, experiment with different ways of doing things and cultivate that capacity to do that. So what you should be doing is you should be taking an art course or practicing art, studying philosophy, and making sure you take lots of science and experimenting with things and doing all that stuff. What you should never do is like sitting in a big classroom. The stale air. What are we all thinking? This is like mass psychosis. And we're all here together doing this. Should walk out. Savor the second half of class, right? Okay. Now, we have tended often to think of the way to move towards solutions as a figure out who is the person best oriented, who is that process, who is the person entity. And we sort of say business can solve these problems, and government can solve these problems, and non-profits can solve these problems, and so on. So we tend to try to parcel the problems across different types of actors. And most of the time, they're sort of frustrated by the outcome. Because they think government should solve these problems, and they don't seem to be doing that. And we think that the market and the private sector should be creating jobs, but they're not doing that. We think that civil society should be doing whatever it's supposed to do, saving the environment, and it's not doing that. I'm going to speed this up. Today, a lot of people are thinking about this is that we have to move beyond these traditional views. We have to do two things. We have to make sure that we are cultivating creativity and problem solving and ingenuity in ourselves and in our world. And we have to look at the things that are lacking, that contribute to that. So maybe those things I went over, maybe you go, I'm really good on that, really good, but I never do that. Those are they're all part of it. We need to focus on all these things. You are the natural leaders of this country. You need to be the creatives. You need to be the problem solvers. And so that's one part of it. The second part of it is we probably can't rely on isolated types of solutions. We can't assume that the State Department will solve all of our relations, and the Department of Defense will provide security, and CDC will protect will guarantee public health, and so on and so forth. The world is too complicated for that old-fashioned way. We need to find new ways to collaborate. And so the discussion, I'd say the current vote, and I don't mean that in a belittling way, but there's an enormous amount of really exciting work being done on what real collaboration involves. And what that really, and what people have discovered is where are we getting problems solved today?
We're getting problems solved when we bring together different groups of people from different sectors. But we don't say the market will solve it. We say, yeah, the market's got a role. And we don't say the government will solve it. We say the government's got a role. And we say, but we agree on what we want to achieve. What are the rules? But the idea is that increasing research, we discovered that isolated groups solving problems don't make sense. Amnesty International can't solve the human rights problem by itself. Governments can't solve, the educational crisis by themselves. But collaboration doesn't just mean people working in whichever way they think they'd like to work. It means people coming together and saying, here's our objective, here's what we want to do. Agreeing on something substantial.
And the successful working together is much more structured than that sort of diffuse network approach, which was sort of popular over the past 20 or 30 years, but not very well researched. So increasingly, we're seeing confirmation that
to really solve those problems means bringing together different types of skills, different types of expertise, different perspectives, but finding a way to harness them into a common structure, creating a structure for, in our case, sustainability. Not something vague, however you want to interpret it, that's fine. Because what that ends up doing is getting nobody anywhere. We end up going in a whole lot of different directions, and we make little bits of progress, but in the end we look back and we say, wow, and we're still polluting, we're still creating this amount of waste, the climate, we're still releasing carbon into the atmosphere. And that means that there are thousands of people screwing around trying to do stuff, but we're not harnessed to a shared objective. And you don't have to harness yourself to a shared objective for everything. But for some of these big problems that affect us all, we need to set some real concrete goals and agree on a structure, and then bring all our strengths and skills together to solve them. And what researchers discovered is when we do that, it actually works. It actually transforms public health, it transforms education, and it transforms our relationship with the environment or with the energy. But what we try is that one group solves it. We hope that I put the bag up there, and if you guys take care of it, then we can almost be certain that that's not going to work. To solve the recycling problem, we need to have citizens engaged, and we need to have regulations, and we need to have businesses accepting that. We need to all work together. And what would happen 6 months from now? We have a recycling system that recycles everything. It's completely possible, but it needs a whole lot of people sharing the goal and working to the same end. And those of you who can orchestrate that, you're going to change the world.
And those of you who stay stuck with the old models are going to putter along and be endlessly frustrated because we're not going to get anywhere. Now, I'm not saying that every type of problem, you don't need a collaborative approach to getting your car started. All we need is jumper cables and a neighbor. But to solving healthcare and education and climate change, we do. We need concrete rules and we need lots of people. And I think the recycling example, the water infrastructure, these are great examples of we're not going to make progress if we don't think about this. I'm going to leave this up. The elements of successful collaboration are starting to emerge from research. And it's exactly the things I talked about. Clear goals, a shared way of measuring progress towards those goals. Coordinating our activities in some plan of action. We will recycle Saturday mornings here, and you'll be responsible for this, and you for this, and you for this. And we're going to communicate. This wasn't working. Okay, so we have to adjust that part of the system and make that part work. And dedicated people who don't have a stake in a particular victory, but just want the program to succeed and the goal to be reached. You need to hire people who are committed to the goal, and only that goal, and who don't have any other objective. And when you do that, bang, you move forward. So, I'm not going to... if anybody has any questions? You do? You do? Oh, wow. I've got questions.
So the communication strategy, educating people think this way, and changing our ideological, our values
which is so wet and so thick. Many people who's responsible, who should do what, those are really critical. And that's why you people have to do what you want to do. It's spontaneously self-happy. Definitely, a lot of these things are and if you look at successful schools that have started by some vision from the West, it's like even people like Bush here, look at get people on board with a program, a public school program committed, strong commitment to artistic expression. And for like 15 years, seriously? And now what's happening? Because the presidency of all those barriers pushed on. Now everybody wants to get into it. Because it's considered like the So it is sort of learning, finding ways forward, agile, innovative, not allowing yourself to stop. If you're building support. That's why you're here to if you're isolated, if you're whether you're in a single company, single agency, you can be stopped. It's easy to stop a single entity. But when you have a multi-sectoral approach, and you've got some private sector people, some government people, some citizens, and some professors all working together, that's how you start school. Other questions? So
everybody, why don't you take a 10-minute break? Right?
Yes. 10 minutes, 15? 10-minute break, back for the short second half.